Welcome. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you'll do me a favor, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so anything will help. But here's where we'll start. And I guess we'll start on a personal level for people that clearly see. This is episode 200. And a lot of people have been asking me how I feel about it. You know, this is a huge milestone for podcasts. For people that don't know, the statistics show that podcasts don't make it out of episode 3. I think a lot of people want to go into starting a podcast and hell, like me, I went into it saying, I want to start a podcast. And very quickly, I didn't understand or I didn't grasp. I couldn't fathom the amount of time podcasting takes. I could not imagine that. This podcast takes up so much of my life. From editing. I'm a one-man band. For people that are, you know how it is, man. I edit. I, of course, record. I'm an audio guy. I'm a light guy. I'm a set guy because I build the set. I have to find the topics to talk about. I have to watch most of these games. I have to watch highlights, do research. There's so much stuff that goes into a podcast, man. So I completely understand how podcasts don't make it out of episode 3. Because a lot of people, including myself, didn't understand how much work this is. Because trust me, man, it's fun saying, once a week, we're just going to rap. We're just going to talk on a mic about something that we love, something that we enjoy. A lot of, some people can get together with their friends and be like, we're going to talk about this. We're going to get together once a week or twice a week or whatever and talk about this, talk about X. It sounds great, man. Until you dip your feet in that pool, man, and you got to realize it's a lot harder to swim when you're in the pool outside of talking about it. And this isn't me taking no shot at nobody. This isn't me taking a shot at the failed podcasts. Trust me, the only reason why I made it to 200 is because I love doing what I do. I love expressing my thoughts, my input, my views on sports. I started this podcast because I had nothing else to do. Actually, I started this podcast to be a resume builder, man. I was like, hey, I want to build my resume, so I have a podcast. I didn't have a reel. I don't have a reel. I don't have anything like that. I knew I wanted to work in the sports world, and I just wasn't getting nowhere. So I said, let me try to create this podcast. 200 episodes in, no, I didn't think I'd make it because it was just something that I thought about doing one day, man. That means I sat in front of a mic, whether this one, my old one, I sat in front of a mic 200 times. For the podcast, not including, I tried the unpopular questions. I tried other branches of things, and I got here, man. So I know this is what is it, kind of narcissistic or whatever it's called to start an episode praising yourself, but I deserve it, man. This has been a journey. I appreciate the people that's been on this journey with me. This is 200th episode. This is episode 200, and this is to 200, 300, 400 more. However long God has me on this road, man. So I appreciate you guys. I really do, man. And I appreciate myself. I know that sounds crazy, but I appreciate myself for sticking to it. Because boy, it's tough. There are multiple times, that I don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing it. Hell, I had to take a week off or a day off last week because I just wasn't mentally prepared. So the fact that I stuck to it is crazy to me, and I like it. So We're at episode 200, man. That's enough about me. Oh, appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys because honestly, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't love doing it. And apparently some of y'all love it too. So I appreciate the people that are here. But let's actually move on and talk about some sports. So the World Series is here, man. When I'm recording, this is before game 1 of the World Series between the Houston Astros and Atlanta Braves. Now, trying to predict this game is tough. I say it's tough because if you just look on paper, this is an easy Houston Astros win. I mean, Houston Astros probably have most of the top people in this matchup. I mean, you have Carlos Carrera, who has been on a tear. You have Yoran Alvarez. You have Jose Altuve. You have Kyle Tucker, who has been a breakout star these playoffs. Luis Garcia. Like, they have most of the best players. Now, of course, the Atlanta Braves, they do have, Ozzy Abreu. They do have Freddie Freeman, who's on a tear, but it's an easy pick. This is an easy pick. Astros should win. But then when I look down deeper, man, and when I look at the totality of the playoffs, the Braves should not be here. There should be every single time the Braves have taken the field, they have been the quote unquote lesser team. They should not have won against the Brewers. They should definitely not have won against the Dodgers, but they did, and that's no offense to them, and that's not taking a shot at them. But if you look at their roster compared to the Milwaukee Brewers and the LA Dodgers, it's hard for me to envision them getting here. Yet and still they're here. So, this game is so hard to pick because, again, this isn't something that was expected. I didn't expect the Houston Astros to be. I mean, I didn't expect the Atlanta Braves to be here. Hell, the Atlanta Braves have not been to the World Series since 1999. So it's crazy, man. It's crazy. But they're here. And the question is, who do I choose? Who's going to win? Now, again, on paper, the Houston Astros are the better team. They have the deeper team, even though Atlanta does have a deep team. They have the bigger stars, even though, Freddie Freeman and Ozzy have kind of come to their own. And let's before I give my picks, let's talk about how the Houston Astros got here. So the Houston Astros beat the White Sox, also beat Boston. Now, Boston was on a tear. Boston, they beat the Yankees in the wild card. They beat the number 1 team in the ALC, and that was the Tampa Bay Rays. And the Houston Astros, that's a fast team. They're great at pitching. They're great at hitting. Like I said, Carlos Carrera has been crazy. He had a couple home grand slams. Or big hits, let's say, in that Boston series, for them to win 4-2. It's an explosive team. This is an explosive team. And usually when you hear about an explosive team, they have to have spurts. They have to have an inning. They have to have maybe 2 innings where they may get a home run. They may get 3 home runs. They had like a 4 home run inning, I think, in like the 9th one of the games against Boston. But the thing about the Houston Astros is they are just balanced. And that's kind of what we didn't see with a lot of these teams, man. They're balanced. Again, they can win off good pitching. And they usually win off, home runs and stolen bases. But the Houston Astros, it is a squad. Now, a lot of people are upset because, they want them to quote unquote pay for the old cheating thing. And, I understand the frustration, but they earned it, at least from what it looks like. They earned this one. And right now this entire playoffs, they have been the best team. they have been the best team. I mean, they wiped out the White Sox, and they beat they beat the Boston Red Sox, who are on fire in the ALC. They dismantled them 4-2. So it hasn't been that, let me say, it hasn't been, well, I will say this. Atlanta Braves, they have wiped out people too. Again, to me, I didn't expect them to beat the Milwaukee Brewers, and they beat the Milwaukee Brewers 3-1. And they, kind of like the Astros, have been hot. Freddie Freeman has been on fire. He's come big moment after big moment after big moment. And Ozzy Abreu, big moment after big moment after big moment. So it's, to me, it's the World Series. It's the World Series. Both teams are healthy. So it's even. It's even, mano a mano. Now, to me, the Houston Astros have better players than Atlanta Braves, but Atlanta Braves, like I said, they destroyed the Dodgers, they destroyed the Milwaukee Brewers, so it's even. So to me, when a matchup is even like that, in my opinion, you go with the stars. You go with who has the better players and who has the stars. And when I say that, both teams are deep. The Atlanta Braves are incredibly deep, and that's honestly what got them here. They can go deep in their bullpen with some very productive players, and the Houston Astros can do that as well. But the Houston Astros, while they do have a good roster, they're pretty much top heavy, like Carlos Cabrera and Jose Altuve. Jordan Alvarez has been great too. So they're more top heavy. Like, their stars are stars. And with the Atlanta Braves, while Freddie Freeman is a star and everything, they're just deeper. So who do I choose, man? Again, this is before game one, so this game one has not swayed me at all because I haven't even seen game one. I'm recording this on Tuesday, of course, dropping Wednesday. I'm going to go with the Astros. I'm going to go with the Astros because they're just the better. I'm not going to say the better team, but they have the better players higher up. While they're not deeper, in my opinion, than the Braves, because the Braves are an incredibly deep team. You know what? Never mind. I'm going to go with the Braves. I think it's easy to go with the Astros in 6 or Astros in 7, but I'm going to go with the Braves in 7. I'm going to go with the Braves in 7 because I believe if you extend this series, if you make this series a 6-7 game series, I think the bullpens are going to be a huge factor. Pitching and bullpens, in my opinion. And I think that the Atlanta Braves can go deeper in their bullpen with more useful players than the Houston Astros. Now, I think the Houston Astros have better players on top. But again, if you extend the series and you really force a team to use their bullpen, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Braves. Again, the Atlanta Braves should not be here. Now, again, that's no disrespect to them. That is actually a compliment. Nobody would have expected them to beat the Milwaukee Brewers. The Milwaukee Brewers is a better team. Nobody would have expected them to beat the LA Dodgers. LA Dodgers is a deep team. And if you look at the roster, they were one of the best teams in the last however many years. So the Braves on the roll. That's kind of how I picked. Now the Boston Red Sox were on the roll as well until they hit the Astros, but I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Braves. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Braves, a team that has not been here since 1999. I'm going to go with them, and I'm going to roll the dice. Again, I think what Atlanta wants is it to be a longer series. Now, of course, they could get hot. Both teams are hot pretty much, and they could, win it in however many games, but I think that they want to make this a longer series so that you have to dig deep in their bullpen, and Houston's gonna have to dig deep in their bullpen, because I think if that happens, Atlanta has an advantage in my opinion. So I have the Atlanta Braves winning the World Series in 7 games, and I think the MVP. I'm gonna go with Freddie Freeman. He's pretty much him him alongside Ozzy have pretty much been carrying him, and I think that especially when you look at the Dodgers series, you saw a lot more. You saw bigger plays, in my opinion, from Freddie Freeman than Ozzy, and that's no offense to Ozzy because they both came huge. So I'm gonna go with Freddie Freeman. I'm gonna go Freddie Freeman as the World Series MVP, and I have the Dodgers, not the Dodgers. I have the Atlanta Braves winning in 7. Speaking of the Dodgers, like I said, the Atlanta Braves, and this, let's kind of move forward. We talked about the Yankees when the Yankees lost to Boston in the wild card. Now let's talk about the Dodgers. The Dodgers. The question now is what next? The Dodgers had one of the most, if not the most expensive roster. They had some of the biggest names. I mean, you had Matt Scherzer, you had Mookie Betts, you had Cody Bellinger, who he had a horrible season until the playoffs, where he just exploded. Clayton Kershaw, like they have Justin Turner, Trey Turner. Here's how I feel. Here's why I think that, and here's how I know, in my opinion. I said no, in my opinion. Here's how I view the New York situation and Dodger situation completely different. Both of them put a lot of money into their team. Yankees, Carlos, they had a lot of pitching. Garrett Cole, they put a lot of money into their team. So did the Dodgers. The problem is, with the Yankees, they didn't really get the same return. They didn't get the same return from those players. Those players weren't as big in crucial situations as they should have been. Garrett Cole was horrible in the wild card game, and that's the man they paid big money to from the Astros. For the Dodgers, not everyone, but that team just fell apart. It's kind of like Golden State. Golden State when they played Toronto, just everyone fell apart. Clayton Kershaw didn't even play in the postseason, I don't believe. Mookie Betts was hurt a lot of the season. I said Cody Bellinger, he just was horrible until the playoffs, but they lost Justin Tucker. They lost him. It's just the team. They lost a whole bunch of their pitching. Their team just fell apart. So the question now is, what happens next year for them? What happens for the Yankees? What happens to all these teams? The St. Louis. What happens to the Giants? The Giants that were the number 1 overall seed in the NL, they lose 3-2 to the Dodgers. So I think when you look at teams like Tampa Bay, I think that Tampa Bay does need a shakeup. Now, I didn't expect them to be number 1, but when you're number 1 and lose to the Boston Red Sox 3-1, there's something clearly wrong there. Especially when you were heavy favorites to win, and you lost 3-1. It's not like it was not like the wild card where one game decides it all. You lost 3-1. I think Tampa Bay definitely needs to switch it up. I think the Giants don't really need to. I think they can run it back. Again, they lost to a Dodgers team that a lot of people expected them to be where they were, and a lot of people were saying that this is one of the best teams ever assembled in baseball, and they lost 3-2. So I'm not upset with that. But the Dodgers, that's the question. What happens with the Dodgers? I think the Dodgers run it back. Now, again, I know this is a very expensive team, and see if you can get any pieces or make any moves with Kershaw. But I would, but then again, I don't know, because Kershaw is still a good pitcher, and Matt Scherzer, his arm just fell apart in the postseason. And that's no offense. That's just what happened. I think the Yankees need a big shakeup. We talked about that when they lost. I think they need a big shake. I don't know if it's the manager. I don't know. But they need a big shakeup. And I think that the Dodgers can run it back. Maybe look at their manager and figure out what happens with him. But the Dodgers are still a great team, and it's just they just fell apart at all the key positions at first baseman, at pitching, especially pitching. The team just fell apart. So I think you run it back, get healthy again, and try to see what happens. I would understand if they lost to the Braves 4-2 and they were completely healthy. Then you'd be like, hold on now, whoa? But they weren't, and that's no shade or no. I'm not diminishing what the Braves did. I'm just saying what happened. So I think teams like Tampa Bay maybe need to shake it up. I think the White Sox kind of was. I don't think that the White Sox are good, but I didn't expect them to be the third overall seed in the ALC. So I think that was more of like a successful season. Even though, of course, every team wants to get to the World Series, I didn't expect much from the White Sox. So I think that they can run it back. St. Louis, I mean, you made it to the wild card. Good for you. No, the Brewers, I mean, I don't know what you can really do to shake it up, but you had a good season. It's just the teams at the top, like the Giants. I think the San Francisco Giants, they lost to a better team that was healthier. Or healthier at the time. So I just think like teams like the Dodgers should definitely they should run it back with a healthy team. And like I said, before we move on from baseball, I have the Atlanta Braves beating the Houston Astros in the World Series in 7 games, and my MVP is Freddie Freeman. And again, Game 1 has no bearing on my prediction because I am recording before Game 1. So I don't know at this moment. I don't know who won Game 1. So let's move forward. So on Saturday, that's when I just wasn't mentally there. So I didn't give my predictions for Week 7. I also didn't talk about the Thursday night football game. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give my breakdown of Week 7. And I'm going to start with the Thursday night football game. I understand it's Wednesday. It was almost a week ago. And honestly, it wasn't that much of Thursday night football wasn't that much of an exciting game. The Browns beat the Broncos 17-14. You're really starting to see the limitations of Teddy Bridgewater. Now, this is no offense to Teddy, but this is who he is. Teddy Bridgewater is not a player he's a serviceable player. At this point of his career, and actually, if you really think about it, his entire career, he's been a serviceable player. He's not going to get you into situations, like he's not really going to get you into trouble, but he's not going to really win you that many games. He's just going to do what he has to do. And, when you're playing the Browns and your defense is, pretty good, even though they did lose Von Miller, so I hope he comes back good. But yeah, Patrick Surtain, who's been great. You have a good team. Melvin Gordon's been all right. Cortland Sutton has been good. When you're playing against a Browns team, which they have a good defense, don't get me wrong. You have Jadeveon Clowney. You have Myles Garrett. But when you're playing Denzel Ward, but when you're playing a Browns team without Baker Mayfield, former number one overall pick, and Case Keenum. Now, don't get me wrong, Case Keenum is one of the best backups in the league. When we talk about backups, you have to keep in mind, backups are not there to win you a season. Backups are not there to win you multiple games. Backups are there to win you maybe one game, maybe keep the ship afloat if if your quarterback goes down for a series or for a game. They're not really there to win multiple games. That's why you see Ryan Fitzpatrick is so good for when he comes in, he's so good either the beginning of the season or the first few games he comes in because it's just like, damn, Fitz magic. But then once the totality of the season and once the season continues and your backup quarterback now has to be your starting quarterback, it doesn't really work out that way. or let me say this, it's not as good as you expect it to be, because a lot of people have too high expectations for backups. You're a backup for a reason. If you were good enough to be a starter, you would be a starter. Now, there's some players, and there's some teams that have players that are good enough to be starters. They're just not. Like Jimmy We'll talk about that in a second. I don't know about that. And now I think about it, there really isn't a team that their backup is good enough to be a starter. Now that I'm really, you could say Jacoby Brissett, since he did start a lot of games in Indianapolis, but no, that's not that good. Yeah, never mind. Forget what I just said. You're a backup for a reason. So when Teddy Bridgewater goes up against a team that has a backup as a quarterback, you automatically have the position, like have the advantage. Now, I understand that you're playing their defense, and their defense is still pretty good, but you're expected to win that matchup. Now, when we talked about the backup in Case Keenum is one of the best backups in the league. He's good for stints because he's a backup. He's meant to be a backup. He's not really a starting quarterback. We saw what happened when he was a starting quarterback. Now, a lot of people want to talk about the whole Vikings and Saints game, but that was like the crescendo. That was the magnum opus of his career. And if you take that out, he's had a very pedestrian career. That's because he has been put in positions to start when he's really a backup. Now you put him in a backup position for the Browns, and he comes in. The Browns look good. Now, it wasn't a great game. It was pretty much like a slugfest. But the Browns did win 17-14. And now we have to wait to see what happens with Baker Mayfield. Is Baker Mayfield going to come back healthy? I mean, I know he has a torn labrum, I believe, in his left arm. I think that's not an injury, especially for a quarterback, that you want to take lightly. I understand that he wants to be on the field, but you don't want to take that lightly. So I do want to see what happens with the Browns moving forward, and with the Broncos. Again, it's kind of like the Panthers, and we'll talk about the Panthers in a second. I understand you play who's on the schedule. So when the Broncos were 3-0, I was like, hey, hold on now. Let's just wait. They're combined, the team that they played were combined 1 and whatever at the time. And I'm like, let's just wait. Let's just wait when they start playing, better competition. And as we're seeing, they're on a 4-game losing streak. So, and it kind of, Teddy Bridgewater he's not really a starting quarterback. Let's be honest, Teddy Bridgewater is not really a starting quarterback. He can kind of fit in that backup role. As far as you come in for stints, he's good. He'll keep the ship afloat, but he should not be depended on to be a starter. He's just not that in his career. So that's that. And it sucks for the Broncos because this is yet another year where they don't have the quarterback. They thought they had the quarterback in Drew Lock. That wasn't the case. You come in, Teddy Bridgewater was supposed to be your backup, but he beat out Drew Lock. And it's just like the saying says, if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. And honestly, Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater are completely different. We've talked about it before. They're on the complete end of the spectrum, but I kind of do view them the same. As far as Drew Lock is going to be reckless, he's going to do what he got to do. Like he's going to put your team in poor situations, but he can also have a 400-yard game. Teddy Bridgewater is not going to have a 4-yard game. He's not going to put your team in bad situations, but he's not going to take risks. He's not going to really throw the ball downfield. He may do it once or twice, but he's not really going to do that. He's not going to give you 400 yards. He may give you 180 or 200 yards. That's just where they're at. So that's the Broncos, man. The Giants beat the Panthers, and this game was the Giants beat the Panthers 25-3. This was an ugly game, man. But this game had more to do about Sam Darnold than anything else. So Sam Darnold gets benched for PJ Washington, and I may have been wrong about Sam Darnold, man. When the Panthers got Sam Darnold, I was like, it was a good move. I was one of the people, and I'm still one of the people that say that a lot of Sam Darnold's problems was due to the lack of talent around him in New York. And he hasn't looked good the last few games. In fact, he's looked like the Sam Darnold from the Jets these last few games. And I don't remember who said it, but it was an incredible quote. They said that, just because you take a player out of a losing situation doesn't ultimately mean that their mind flips into a winning situation. Meaning, just because Sam Darnold gets out, he was in the Jets for a minute. Just because you take Sam Darnold out the Jets doesn't mean that he doesn't have a losing mentality, and you're going to have to work on that and learn. I think Sam Darnold is better than what he's put. I mean, he looked really good the first 3 games. They went 3-0 as well. But again, kind of like the Broncos, you wanted to wait to see they played better talent, and they did. Even though they did lose to the Cowboys, he looked really good for the Cowboys. I mean, he looked really good against the Cowboys. So I think that he can turn it around, but I may have been wrong. Again, these last few games have looked like the old Sam Darnold. I think that, or let me not say old Sam Darnold. These last few games have looked like the Sam Darnold that played for the Jets. Now, if he turns it around and looks more like the 3-0 Sam Darnold, then hey, I wasn't wrong. But if right now is looking mighty, he does not look good. And just because you bench somebody doesn't automatically mean their job is taken, their job is lost. They just benched them. There has been some players have been benched before and then come back and had an incredible rest of the season or incredible next game. So and I'm not comparing Sam Darnold to these players, but LeBron James had to be benched early in his career. Sam Darnold is still kind of young, so I do want to see what happens moving forward with it. But right now, Sam Darnold is not looking good, and I do think that it's going to take time to change his mindset, change how he approaches the game, and I do want to see what happens moving forward with the Panthers. So. But shouts out to the Giants. They did win. And Sam Darnold what's his name? Daniel Jones looked all right. He did have a one-handed catch, which was cool. That was going all around sports and everything. But, hey, shouts out to them. The Patriots destroyed the Jets 54-13. The Jets are not a good franchise. They're not a good organization. And honestly, I think you have to start looking at the coach. The Jets came off a bye week. This was a bye week. Now, for people that are wondering why are you saying this, you're supposed to be they're the fresher team. They didn't play last week, and the bye week you're supposed to not only get healthy, you rejuvenate or recharge the batteries, but you're supposed to come in. You're supposed to look at your game plan, whether it's working or not. You're supposed to attack it as far as you're either supposed to improve on it or you have to change it. The Jets have not been good. Yes, they're 1-5, but they're 1-5. And they could very well be 0-6. And the Jets just look bad. I understand he's a first-year coach, and I'm not going to completely dismiss Robert Saleh because he doesn't really have a lot to work with. But Robert Saleh has not been good. Kind of like, you see how we killed Urban Meyer? Now, a lot of them killed Urban Meyer because of the situation that happened off the field. But we have to also look at Robert Saleh hasn't made good decisions. He hasn't made good adjustments. I don't think he's made any adjustments, honestly. So, you lose to a Patriots team, a team that's not that good. The Patriots are not that good. Mac Jones has struggled most of this year. He's been a serviceable quarterback, but he hasn't been that great. Now, I understand you lose Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson got hurt. I hope he gets better. I think it's a PCL thing. He may miss a couple games, but you do have Zach Wilson did get hurt. But even Zach Wilson, even a healthy Zach Wilson, he hasn't been that dynamic. He was great against the Titans, but that was just one game. Yeah, the Jets, Roberts, nothing has looked good for the Jets outside of that one win against the Titans. Nothing has looked good. From Robert Saleh and his coaching decisions to his game, his clock management, his game management. Zach Wilson hasn't looked good. There's not one. Elijah Wood, I think he scored his first touchdown in the league on Sunday. So shouts out to you. But there's not one unit for the Jets that look good, whether the coaching on the field, nothing. So them losing 54-13 is about right. And you have to really, I'm not saying he needs to get fired, but you have to really start looking. Robert Saleh has not done that good of a job. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand he's a first-year coach, but both teams, the Patriots and the Jets, have been struggling now. Not the Patriots has not been struggling as much as the Jets, but these two teams are not 41 points separate from each other. They're not. And that's you have to start looking at that is a huge loss. Now I understand, some teams don't have the same goals, right? Some teams don't have the same goals. Some teams' goal is, of course, Super Bowl. Some teams' goals is just try to make it to the postseason. Some teams' goal is let's just attack the draft. But the Jets and the Patriots at this point of their at this stage of these teams' life, I guess, they should not be 41-point favorites. Tom Brady's on the Patriots. Like, come on now. So, shouts to the Patriots for beating the Jets, 54-13. So, one of the biggest games, probably going into the week, the biggest game was the Kansas City Chiefs and the Titans. You had Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, and that all explosive offense, A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, going up against Patrick Mahomes. We know who the Chiefs are, and the Chiefs. And the Titans, the score was 27-3, but it wasn't as close as I know it's a 24-point game, but it was not that close. The Titans got anything they wanted from, like, they just destroyed the Chiefs. Now, people are, Patrick Mahomes had a fumble and had another interception. I think he leads the league in interceptions, and I know that the Chiefs are not good, bro. The Chiefs are not good this year. Now, people ask, why is Patrick Mahomes went from Patrick Mahomes, when we look at Patrick Mahomes, a lot of people were saying, including myself, that he's one of the greatest of all time as far as his talent. And now we're looking at him like, dog. There were people that really said trade Patrick Mahomes. I was not one of those people. But there were people, that hashtag going around on Twitter saying trade Patrick Mahomes. And I think I said this before. I know I said this before, but I'll reiterate it. This defense is horrible. In fact, they're ranked last in all of the they're ranked either last or close to last in all of the major categories. Red zone completion, touchdown ratio, turnovers, first downs allowed, points allowed. They are like the worst or close to worst in all of the defensive statistical categories. And Patrick Mahomes knows this. Hell, anyone that watches football and that's been watching the Kansas City Chiefs know that they are not good. Outside, now they have missed Chris Jones, but outside of Tyrann Mathieu, this is not a good defense. And Patrick Mahomes knows this. Patrick Mahomes understands if the other team starts off with the ball, more than likely, the next time Patrick Mahomes touches the field, or the first time Patrick Mahomes touches the field, they're down 7-0. And because of that, you're starting to see Patrick Mahomes tries to go for the home run every time. Not because, he's just trying to play reckless, but it's because he's trying to compensate for such a bad defense. Now, the problem with that is it's gotten him into trouble. Again, I think he has like nine interceptions right now. And people keep asking, when are the Chiefs going to turn around? Are the Chiefs going to turn around? And it starts. Don't get me wrong. This is not me saying, because I hear a lot of people, trying to say, no, it's just the defense. This is not me saying Patrick Mahomes is not a problem. Patrick Mahomes has been a problem. His turnovers has been a problem. He tries to go for the home run a lot, and it hasn't. In the past, it hasn't backfired for him, but now it is. I mean, he's getting interception after interception. But I do understand. What did Shannon Sharp say? He has a turnover bug. He just turns the ball over a lot right now. I think that can be rectified, of course, but his defense is not good. Patrick Mahomes does have a lot to play, and if we talk about the blame pie, he does have a lot to play, or he does have a big piece in that pie, but the defense has it too, and I just don't see how the defense can get better. Like, they're horrible. Now, the only way to go is up, because they're like bottom of the league right now, and this is a league that the Jets allowed 54 points, and the Kansas City Chiefs defense has been worse than the Jets defense. The Kansas City Chiefs defense has been worse than the Atlanta defense. And we remember how bad Atlanta defense was. Or is. So, I think at this point, we really have to start questioning, and we can't really expect the Kansas City Chiefs to even make the playoffs right now. They're not even, I think they're last in their division. They're the only division outside of the AFC North. They're one of two divisions that's not led by the division's best quarterback. And Lamar Jackson, and we'll talk about that in a second. Lamar Jackson and Jamar Chase are kind of going back and forth. Not Jamar Chase. And Joe Burrow are going back and forth. So the Tennessee Titans, and the thing is, they didn't even get killed. Derrick Henry didn't kill them like I expected him to. Like, I expected Derrick Henry to go off, but he didn't need to. A.J. Brown had a day. Julio Jones they were just going back and forth. I was like, who is on me? Okay, pass me the ball. They were just going back and forth. Now, Derrick Henry did have, a throwing touchdown. I think he did have a rushing touchdown, but they were just teeing off. I think it was probably the fear of Derrick Henry could go off that kind of dictated the Chiefs defense. And when your defense is that bad and you have your A.J. Brown and Julio Jones are having one-on-one coverage because you're trying to stop the run, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day. So, shout out to the Tennessee Titans for beating the Kansas City Chiefs. The Packers beat the Washington football team 24-10. I'm not going to continue to harp on this. The Washington Tyler Heinicke is not a starting quarterback. The story of Tyler Heinicke is cool. He's exciting. He can rush. He's a talented rusher, but he's not a starting quarterback. And Washington needs the quarterback. And the thing is, I think they're trying to hold out on Ryan Fitzpatrick, but Ryan Fitzpatrick is not a starting quarterback either. He's kind of like in the Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater realm as far as he's a really good backup, but I shouldn't, and I don't feel comfortable expecting him to be a starter. But I don't really. Again, we don't really need to, what's his name? Aaron Rodgers did what he had to do. Now, the game coming up on Thursday night between the Packers and the Cardinals, that's going to be a big game. Devontae Adams is out with on the COVID-19 list, so it's hard for me to pick the Packers already because of how good the Cardinals have looked. But when you don't have your number one receiver in Devontae Adams, and he's played such a huge part. In fact, he has more reception yards this year than any other receiver and tight end combined on the team. So I think that when you lose someone that big and that pivotal to your offense, I think it's going to be big. So I have the Cardinals winning that one. But for this Washington Packers game, until Washington, and the frustrating thing is Washington is a good team. Now, their defense has underachieved this year, like drastically, but the defense had this is the second week in a row, the defense had a solid game. It's just the offense didn't pick it up. And it's not, the offense is talented too. You have Terry McLaurin, you have Antonio Gibson, you have Ricky Seals-Jones. You have good players. It's just you don't. I mean, in this season, I think when Tyler Heineke has started, he has 2 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, and those 4 interceptions are back-breaking interceptions. So Washington is not going to go anywhere. I mean, Washington is probably one of the, not the biggest, but probably one of the more disappointing teams, because with the roster that they have going into the season, nobody thought that we were sitting here week 7 and they'd be 2-5. And, until they address the quarterback position, it is what it is. The Falcons beat the Dolphins 30-28. A lot of people, Matt Ryan a lot of people in my comment, when I did the Matt Ryan video, when I said I was probably wrong about Matt Ryan, people are flocking to that video now every time Matt Ryan has a good game. But I just want them to remember, you're playing against the Dolphins. While the Dolphins is a good team, their top 2 corners were out. And hey, when your top 2 corners are out, and then Tua, I'm not saying Tua was bad. He just yeah. Shouts out to Matt Ryan for capitalizing on the Dolphins' inefficiency on the defense, and shouts out to the Falcons. So. The Bengals destroyed the Ravens, 41-17. A lot of people are trying to trash Lamar Jackson and trash the Ravens right now. I mean, they did just destroy the Chargers. Now you come back and get destroyed by the Bengals. Shannon Sharp said it best. This happens to every team. I mean, last year the Bucs lost to the Saints, 38-3. We remember the Packers. They got destroyed week 1 against the Saints. Every team has this. Every team every year has a game where they just, we're just going to throw it away. Now, this is yet another week that the Ravens defense just getting torched. Now, Marlon Humphreys he's their best defender at this point. Patrick Queen is good. Calais Campbell, they're probably up there. But Marlon Humphreys is their best corner or best defensive player. Marcus Peters was huge. And I'm not going to blame the injuries. I think the injuries do have a big part, but I can't not say the injuries are the reason when you destroy the Chargers and then start harping on the injuries when you lose to the Bengals. I just think this was a bad game for the Ravens. I think Lamar Jackson threw a beautiful pass to Hollywood Brown, or a beautiful touchdown to Hollywood Brown. The offensive line wasn't good they couldn't really protect Lamar Jackson. It was just a bad game. I think they're just going to chalk this up to throw it away. What I will say is I underestimated how good the Bengals were being. I don't know if you remember my preview of the AFC North, but I had the Bengals last. I did not see them being this good, at least this fast. I thought that they would be good. I mean, Joe Burrow, especially his rookie year, shows signs that he could be a very good quarterback in this league. But I did not think they were going to be this good this fast. I mean, as we sit here today, I think they're number 1 in the NFC or AFC. I think now the duo The Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase duo is already one of the top duos in the league. Jamar Chase, he can take a 5-yard run and bust it for 80 yards. Like, Jamar Chase has that talent. Jamar Chase is incredible. Now, I am giving credit. I knew it was going to be good because we saw what Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow were in LSU. I knew it was going to be a good combo. They're just good together. So a lot of people are coming to me saying, Jalen, have you changed your opinion, changed your take about the Bengals should have taken Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater? No, I haven't. Again, I'm not. Look, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are incredible together. They are a great duo. I'm not taking anything from it. Jamar Chase has been he's been an incredible wide receiver. The fact that this is the same Jamar Chase who looked god awful in the offseason and preseason to now he looks like one of the top receivers in the league. Not saying he is the top, but he looks like at least one day he could be a top receiver, if not the top receiver in the league one day. That's how good he looks. Paired with Joe Burrow, that combination is going to be good for years to come. But I'm not backing down from my stance that I do think the Bengals should have taken a lineman. I mean, how as good as Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow is, Joe Burrow still runs for his life damn near every play. And you want to protect that investment. When you have a quarterback, which the Bengals have not had since probably early Carson Palmer, when you have a quarterback that could be a franchise altering and possibly a Super Bowl winning quarterback one day, you want to protect him. And when their offensive line was god awful last year, you want to address that. Jamar Chase is great, but you still also have T. Higgins. You still also have Tyler Boyd. You still also have Joe Mixon. Those are good players. Now, again, Jamar Chase is incredible. I'm not taking away from that. Joe Burrow is incredible. I'm not taking anything away from that. But I would like to see them protect Joe Burrow more. But, hey, it is fun to watch Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase connect on them long passes. So, shouts out for the Bengals for beating the Ravens. The Lions lost to the Rams 28-19. Yet another week that the Lions look bad. Jared Goff threw a horrible interception in the end zone, or a horrible interception in the red zone. They're 0-7. Again, Jared Goff. Looking at the Rams, Matt Stafford didn't have the greatest day. It was a slugfest until like the fourth quarter. But Jared Goff continues to show why the Rams made the best decision in trading him for Matt Stafford, because Jared Goff in big situations he will mess up. Whether it's a turnover, whether it's a arid pass, he's not to be depended on. And he proved that on Sunday. So, shout out to the Rams. So, the Raiders beat the Eagles 33-22. And this is another sad game or a bad game, like horrible game for the Eagles. Because, like the, who was it? Like the Jets, the Eagles are coming off a bye week. The Eagles are coming off the bye week and looked absolutely horrible against the Raiders. Don't let the 22 points fool you. They weren't that good. They weren't 22 points good. It wasn't good. Jalen Hurts looked bad. Nick Sirianni, the coach, he's probably been one of the, if not the worst coach in the league this year. The Eagles. That's why I said in the beginning, the Eagles don't have much. They traded Zach Ertz and they look like they couldn't pass to nobody. It was bad. It was bad. The Texans lost, or no, the Cardinals destroyed the Texans 31-5. You can tell when a team gets extra amped for a team, whether they're good or bad. And when you have J.J. Watt and DeAndre Hopkins playing their former team, the Texans, you want to get that win for them. And they, the Cardinals look inspired. J.J. Watt starting to look really, really good. DeAndre Hopkins is DeAndre Hopkins. He had a touchdown. Zach Ertz had a touchdown. He looked good. What a surprise. Zach Ertz looks good on a team that wants him. So, hey, the Cardinals did what they were supposed to do. The Broncos beat the Bears 38-3. First of all, shouts out to Tom Brady for throwing his 600 regular season pass. Of course, that's number one. Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback ever. That's no question about it. And year after year after year, he continues to break records. And throwing 600 he more than doubled Joe Montana. Or just doubled him just a little. He doubled Joe Montana, I believe. Tom Brady he continues to lengthen his resume as to why he is the best quarterback of all time. And the Bears, man. Justin Fields probably had the worst game of his life. He had 3 interceptions, 2 fumbles lost, 1 fumble that he did recover. He just looked horrible. The connection with him and Allen Robinson aren't there. I don't know what Matt Nagy's doing, but I didn't think you were going to beat the Buccaneers. I didn't think you were going to beat them. They were 6-1 for a reason now. I just didn't think you had. I didn't think you had the facilities for that, big man. But the Bears, this got to be one of them games where you throw it away because Justin Fields was horrible. So the Colts beat the 49ers. This is another game. The Colts beat the 49ers 30-18. Bro, the 49ers, another team that came off a bye week, they are coming, the fan base is coming at Jimmy G's neck. And rightfully so. Jimmy G looked horrible. He looked horrible. Now, I understand it was raining, but they come off a bye week. They looked horrible. The Colts beat them in every facet of the game. They beat them offensively. They beat them defensively. They beat them in special teams. They were out-coached. People are killing Kyle Shanahan, calling him a fraud because a lot of people told Kyle Shanahan is one of the best coaches in the league. The 49ers, I think it started with Jimmy G, man. Jimmy G, like you're gonna go as your best player, and a lot of he's one of the captains. Jimmy G was horrible. He got outplayed by Carson Wentz. It was bad. And there's another. They're 2-4, and I know you guys remember me saying that the 49ers have arguably the best roster in football. I mean, you can put their roster up with the Buccaneers. You can put their roster up with the Chiefs. You can put their roster up with any team. The Rams. I thought they were one of the best rosters, and I did not think. When you remember going me against the NFC West, I thought that they would be the best team or the second best team in the NFC West. Right now, they're 2-4. Now, they better be lucky that the Seahawks ain't that good. But that's coming off a bye week. They shouldn't play that bad, especially on Sunday Night Football against the Colts, a Colts team that. You have Carson Wentz, and we don't know what you're going to get from Carson. But I will say Carson Wentz has been better this year with Frank Wright than I expected. Now he hasn't been incredible. He hasn't been the Carson Wentz that I can believe could win or could get them to the playoffs. But he has been better ever since that Monday night game against the Ravens. And even in that game, he was incredible. I think he threw for like over 400 yards. And I think the team as a whole had more than 500 yards against the Ravens defense. But the Colts, the 49ers have underachieved drastically. And you can't really say it's from injury. There have been injured players. Jimmy G did get hurt. Trey Lance got hurt. But this has been it's been a relatively healthy season, and they have been bad. So, yeah. Now you got Monday Night Football. You had the Saints beat the Seahawks 13-10. I'm just keep saying it. Russell Wilson masked a lot of problems. Russell Wilson is the best player on the Seahawks, and they really don't have much else. I mean, you have big names like Jamal Adams. You have Bobby Wagner. You have DK Metcalf. You have Tyler Lockett, but they don't have much outside of that. You have to get the DK Metcalf did have the only touchdown that the Seahawks had, but the Seahawks are not a good team without Russell Wilson. This team, and I said it. What next? That was the title of the episode that happened after Russell Wilson got hurt. It's like it's Russell Wilson or bust, and as we're starting to see, it's bust. The Saints didn't have the Saints haven't been that great either. Alvin Kamara had the best game he had as a Saint this season. Not saying period. Yeah, he's let me see. Alvin Kamara, he he had 20 carries for 50 yards. He also had 10 receptions for 128 yards and a touchdown. So he definitely had his best game of the season. And the Seahawks are not going anywhere without Russell Wilson. That's just, you can just chalk that up. Like, this is the second week in a row we've seen the Seahawks with Geno Smith and how bad they look. They look horrible. So, yeah. Let's move forward. Oh, well, that's my week 7 predictions. Those are my week 7, or not predictions. That's my week 7 breakdown. Yeah, man. It's week 7. You have 10 weeks left, or you have 10 weeks left, and now you're starting to see teams. It's kind of hard to fool teams anymore, or it's kind of outside of some teams, like outside of maybe the Giants could possibly get better because of all the injuries. When Saquon comes back, when Kenny Golladay comes back, see what they be. Even though we've seen them fully healthy, and Daniel Jones hasn't looked that good, but you pretty much know what you're getting out of a lot of these teams at this point. It's kind of hard to surprise another team. So you're pretty much outside of maybe the Seahawks. They could make a run with Russell Wilson, and the Chiefs, of course, could make a run. But you're pretty much seeing what these teams are at this point with 7 weeks in. So let's move forward. So the NBA, like I said last time, the NBA is back. Week 1, we're like week 2, week 3 now. It's been exciting, man. I think the biggest I love basketball. We know this, and teams look good, man. Like when you're looking, I know it's early, but I knew the Chicago Bulls were going to be exciting. I knew they were going to be good, but I didn't think they were going to be this good. I didn't think that first 4-0 season since 1996, 97 season. They look great. The Alex Caruso looks good. Lonzo Ball looks great, man. They look good. The Charlotte Hornets look good. Those are the top 2 teams in the West or East right now. Shouts out to the Wizards. They're 6th. They're in the 6th seed. They're, I think, 2-1 at this point. They look good. Like I said, this was going to be a very exciting season, and this is going to be one of the best seasons. And I understand that it's early, but this is shaped up to be a great season. I mean, hell, look at some of the teams that aren't like the Boston Celtics. They had an incredible game again, or a incredible double overtime game against the Knicks, where Jaylen Brown had like 46. Evan Fournier had like 30. Like it's been exciting, man. Cade Cunningham hasn't played yet, even though they are 0-3. Cade Cunningham hasn't played yet, so. It's been exciting. Jalen Green has been incredible. He's been incredible. I want to talk about the Brooklyn Nets for a second. I don't want to talk about the Brooklyn Nets. I want to talk about James Harden. James Harden has played horrible. I don't know what a lot of people are saying that he's having a tough time adjusting to the new foul rule or the rule changes. I say that, and I don't know, man. Now, when you look at some of the especially last year with Houston, goes into the season, he didn't want to be there. He demanded trade. He went there overweight, and he didn't look good. He looked good. I mean, he looked like James Harden, but he was overweight. He looked disinterested. He got him out of there. It's so confusing to me because he was saying there's going to be scary hours when we're completely healthy, even though they don't have Kyrie Irving, but. He's healthy. He's healthy. He looks in shape, and he's still playing horrible. Like he has. That's the big reason why the Brooklyn Nets are sitting 10th right now, in the East. And now again, I understand it's early. They're only 4 or 5 games in, but James Harden has not looked good. And when you don't have Kyrie Irving, KD is going to be KD, and KD has been incredible this season. It's just. You need James Harden because you don't have Kyrie. You need James Harden to pick it up. You need James Harden to go to a different level because you're expecting that from KD. And where else are you going to get it from? Yeah, Cam Thomas is good and he's a really good player, but there's a reason why he was shining against the preseason. We haven't really seen one of those staple games in the regular season. There's a reason why Blake Griffin hasn't had a signature moment this season. LaMarcus Aldridge, Paul Millsap. Now, Patty Mills has been good for them, but Patty Mills isn't one of those players that can just carry the team. So they need James Harden to get better. And if James Harden does not improve, he has to improve. But if he doesn't improve to the James Harden that they thought, there is no shot, no way in hell they make it out the East. There's no shot, no way in hell they probably make it out the first round. And that's no indictment to Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is incredible. But as we've seen this year so far, I know it's early, but as we've seen this year, the West, the East is great. The Bills, the Bulls look good. The Hornets look good. Milwaukee, you still have Milwaukee. The Knicks look good. The Heat, I don't see them beating a lot of those teams if James Harden doesn't play better. So, and in the West, man, again, it's been exciting. The Lakers have not looked good. One of their biggest problems has been their defense. They got destroyed by the Phoenix Suns. They lost to the Warriors. It's their age, man. It's their age. Again, I know it's going to take time for them to gel, with Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James all on the same floor. But the only reason why at this point they're 1-2 instead of 0-3 is because Melo saved them against Melo saved them against the Grizzlies, and John Morant missed a free throw to take them into overtime. Melo had like 28 points. It's just that, again, it's going to take time. It's going to take time, and I'm not saying that they're garbage. I'm just saying their defense needs to improve, especially when you have, Anthony Davis, you have Dwight Howard. Their defense has to improve, because it's not, you're going to lose. You're going to lose big, just like they lost big against the Suns, and they lost to Golden State. Golden State looks incredible, though, man. Jordan Poole has made the leap. Steph Curry looks like he's Steph Curry. Steph Curry is still the best point guard in the league, hands down. He looks great, man. John Morant looks great. Oh, it's just exciting. I'm gonna give it some time. I'm gonna give it some time. I know no people don't like to talk about it because he's loved, but if Damian Lillard continues to play like he's been playing, he will be talked about, because Damian Lillard has not been good. Again, I know it's early, and I keep saying that. I know it's early, but Damian Lillard has not been good. I'm just going to chalk it to maybe, fatigue from the Olympics, even though Kevin Durant was playing great. I don't know. I'm just going to wait to see. But if this play continues, we will definitely discuss Damian Lillard. So, and before we go, the biggest biggest, I guess, news thing that happened last week was the NBA 75. So the NBA came out with a new list. I think on the 50th anniversary of the league, they came out with the top 50 players in the league, and they did the same thing for the 75. A lot of players that made the 50 list made it on the 75, but a lot of players did not, because they just the league is different. And you saw players, some players you knew LeBron James was going to be on that. Current players, let's just say that. Current players. You knew LeBron James was going to be on it. You knew Steph Curry was going to be on it. You knew Kevin Durant was going to be on it. At this point in his career, you knew Giannis was going to be on it. There's other players that were on it that's currently playing. Kawhi Leonard made the list. Melo made the list. Now, a lot of people are like, Melo, he didn't win it, but come on. Denver Melo, New York Melo was just different. The biggest conversation was who did make it. Now, I can go on a diatribe. I can go on a soliloquy why Dwight Howard should have made it. I think he's probably the biggest snub. When you have the resume that he has, I know a lot. The problem that I have with Dwight Howard not being on, it's not the fact that you left him off. It's the fact that if you're making lists like this, you want it to be as unbiased. You want it to be as right as possible. Now, I understand that Dwight Howard is not the most beloved player. Maybe because of the way that he approaches the game. Maybe the fact that he had such a high potential that he didn't reach that much. I know he's not the most beloved player. Trust me, I get that, and I'm not, it is what it is. But these lists are supposed to be as accurate as possible, and these lists are supposed to be unbiased. So the fact that you leave him off but you put in Anthony Davis, and there's no disrespect to Anthony Davis, but I don't think Anthony Davis, now I know if you really look at their accomplishments, it's a lot closer than you think, but Dwight Howard he didn't fall off Dwight Howard didn't fall off just because he was garbage. It was because of his injuries. Injuries really robbed him of the later years of his career, even though he was a big piece to the Lakers. He won the championship with the Lakers. In 2 years ago. So, I mean, people were upset about T-Mac not being on, but I understand. Let me say this. I understand, T-Mac never made it out the first round of the playoffs, but he was big. But then again, if you're not going to put T-Mac on and Klay Thompson, if you're going to leave Klay Thompson, who's a 3-time champion, one of the greatest shooters of all time, you're going to leave T-Mac and Klay Thompson off, but you're going to put Damian Lillard, who's been bounced out the playoffs 4 of the last 5 times, and the only MVP he has is the bubble MVP. And don't get me wrong, Ray Allen was great, especially when he was with the Supersonics and Milwaukee Bucks. But how can you have Reggie Miller? And again, when you hear me say these names, these are no disrespect to these players. These are all great players. But how are you going to have Reggie Miller and Ray Allen, but leave off Klay Thompson, who's a 3-time champion, and even on a team with Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, they would not win those championships, 3 of them, if it wasn't for Klay Thompson. People have said Vince Carter didn't make the list. It's like, how do you leave Vince Carter off, but you put on Dominique Wilkins? And I'm not saying take off Dominique Wilkins. I'm just saying that's the conversation that's been spewed. Like they make these lists, of course, to have these conversations to draw these people or draw conversation in. But there are people that were left off that Dwight Howard's the biggest one. I understand he may have been a quote unquote locker room cancer or whatever, but if you're talking about the best wide receivers of all time, people can say that Terrell Owens was the locker room cancer, but there was nobody in heaven or hell that's going to say that T.O. is not a top 5 wide receiver ever. People can say that Randy Moss was a locker room cancer. People can say that. People can say wherever he went, he was a locker room cancer. People say there's people that say that, but there's no one in heaven or hell that can say that Randy Moss is not a top 5 receiver ever. Yes, Dwight Howard may not be the most likable person, but you cannot look at what he did in Orlando, a lot in Houston, and in LA before his back just went out, his shoulders went out. You can't look at that and think to yourself, he's not top 75. Bro, he's a 3 or 4 time. He's a 3-time defensive player of the year. Like, I don't know, man. But that has been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate you guys. Again, this is the 200th episode. I appreciate you guys for rocking with me. I really do. I didn't expect to get to 200, but hey, now that we're here, this is to the next 200. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, long sleeve, joggers, sweater, the link is in the description below. It's starting to get cold out there. The wind was whipping like hell today, so get your hoodie or get your sweater today. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm seeing, it's slowly but surely going up. I appreciate everyone that's subscribing to the YouTube channel. If you haven't, or someone that haven't, hey man, get them to subscribe. You subscribe. I appreciate you guys. And until next time, man, much love.